Hello friends, acquaintances, and enemies of all ages. My name is Combat Bird, and for today's Year of Kirby video, we'll be going over Kirby's Dream Land 3 for the Super Nintendo. That's right, we actually upgraded to the next console once again, and as such, Dream Land 3 has a ton of charm to it. The story of the game is pretty simple, as expected from the series. Kirby and his friend Gooey are fishing, when suddenly a dark cloud begins to take over the planet, infecting its residents. Kirby must investigate and try to save the planet from its imminent demise. Now immediately, I have to point out this gorgeous art style. Everything looks as if it were drawn with crayon, and it fits the style of Kirby games so well. Everything is just so cute. Mix this with the wonderful soundtrack that Kirby games have, and it really is a great game right off the bat. The gameplay is what you've come to know and love with a couple of minor changes. But the first thing I noticed was that you can finally press A to fly. The change finally happened. If you've watched any of my other Year of Kirby videos, you'll know that in the previous games, pressing jump repeatedly wouldn't make Kirby fly, and I started to think that I was crazy and that the games never even had that mechanic, but thankfully, this is the one that started it all. Ironically, this actually took me some time to get used to again, since the previous games had trained me back to the other way, but once you get the hang of it, it certainly feels like a better control scheme. Sorry, got on a bit of a tangent there. The next thing I noticed was that instead of having a hub with doors leading to the levels, as the past couple of games have done, we instead have a traditional level select, where each world has 6 levels followed by a boss. And now, each and every level has what are called allies, which are little friends who Kirby can do favors for if he wants to get 100% completion of the game. They follow a pretty similar pattern through each world. Some of them want you to collect things, some want you to complete a small minigame, and so on. Honestly, the allies can be a little bit strange, with the art style not always matching that of the rest of the game. But they also throw in some cameo appearances, such as Samus, which is awesome. Now, how do we go about completing these levels? Well, Kirby still has his traditional copy ability, and the animal friends from the last game have returned. We still have Rick, Coo, and Kine respectively, but now we also have Choo Choo the octopus, Pitch the bird, and Nago the cat. With the graphical upgrade we have now, the animal friends have so much more personality. They even get upset when you pick one over the other. And of course, all of the animal friends interact differently with Kirby's copy ability. Some of these are incredibly strange, especially Pitch. He's just kinda crazy. Like using him with Spark turns him into a projectile that you can direct around the screen using a remote control, leaving Kirby completely vulnerable. Another thing to note about the animal friends is that Kirby no longer gets an extra health bar when he's using them, so they feel much more balanced than the previous game. And yet, in certain aspects, they're almost necessary for certain levels. One of the aspects of this game that I'm not actually a huge fan of is that Kirby moves so incredibly slow in the water. Having Kine is so valuable in this game, I swear. It's dreadful going through the water without him, but when you have him, dear lord, you're fast. Now there's one other animal friend I didn't really mention as being playable, and that's Gooey. He has a rare occurrence in the previous game and only healed Kirby if you manage to find him. But now, at any point in the game, you can drop Gooey and he'll do exactly what you're doing as you run through the levels. You can also use him with a second controller if you have a friend to play with. But in the end, I really didn't spend any time using him. Okay, let's talk about the levels. The worlds of this game have themes, similar to previous entries. And being that we have a new console, it makes sense that they would try to add more variety in the levels. And they do. Each world looks wonderful, and some of them even have unique aspects, like Cloudy Park, where there are constantly clouds slightly blocking your vision to make platforming harder. Or Sand Canyon, where the ground is mostly sand, which makes Kirby walk slower. Okay, I'll be honest here, I hated Sand Canyon so much. The fact that you get slowed while you're walking makes the levels not only more difficult to complete, but take so much longer. This was the only world I had a problem with, but it was enough of an annoyance that if I had the option to, I just flew over everything. Now, in Dream Land 3, some of the features from the last game are still present, and some are missing. For example, you can still collect stars scattered throughout the levels to gain a 1-up. Except now it takes a lot more stars to fill your meter. Luckily, there are a couple more stars in each level to help balance this change out. But on the other end, there is no longer a museum, or even sub-games at all for that matter. There are the occasional mini-games that I spoke of earlier, but none that really feel like actual games. And one feature I wanted to mention that is still present but works a bit differently is Kirby no longer drops his copy ability immediately upon being damaged. It now takes multiple hits to get him to drop it. I'm indifferent about this because it does make the game easier, but at the same time, this game is quite a bit more difficult than the last one. Alright, so you finally finished all of the levels in a world. All that you have next is the good old final boss. Well, now bosses have 2 stages. I am so glad to see this change. It really adds to the boss variety. Previously, a world's final boss kind of felt like a slightly stronger mini-boss. But now they actually feel threatening. They have new mechanics, and all around I think this is a really good way to do it. Also, can I take a moment to point out how terrifying Wispy becomes? I swear, this game has some nightmare-fueling animations. Like this clip of the final boss. Jesus Christ, I thought this was a Kirby game. I'm probably gonna have to cry myself to sleep after seeing something like that. Okay everyone, it's time for the ability showcase. Really, there's only one new ability added to this game that we haven't seen before, and that's the cleaning ability. Kirby sweeps using a broom. Pretty interesting, huh? This is actually the only Kirby game that currently has this ability in it, although it's supposedly going to be in Kirby Star Allies on the Switch, so get ready for that. Oh, and just as a little foreshadowing of what's to come in future Kirby games, this game actually allows you to direct the ice ability upwards. Kind of a small little thing, but something I thought was worth mentioning. Alright everyone, that is it for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed, and as always, have a wonderful rest of your day.